Hmm.
Hi, everybody. It's Claudia with Cabin Talk, and today is one of my favorite people coming on, Elana Freeland, who many of you know, and who is unbelievably knowledgeable on anything geoengineering. And today we're going to talk about from geoengineering to bioengineering, which is your third book, Elana. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, Claudia, it's always wonderful to feel like I'm with a friend across the miles.
Right, right. And we have been trying to do this interview for quite a bit, but so-called technical problems, just really prevented us from doing it. It's been a nightmare on both ends a little
Well,
bit.
it has, and something has, the way I interpret it is my status has changed now from my end of why I'm having so much technical
Right,
trouble.
right,
And I think when you shift categories, then new things are challenges.
right, right. And so tell us about the shift in your research. And in the meantime, so people see I'm not just distracted, I'm going to share it to a few groups so we get people on.
So, okay. Oh, yeah. You just went paralyzed.
Oh,
Now you're back. Okay. So maybe we spoke too soon, Claudia,
may,
um, about technical whoopee.
right.
Anyway, what am I what am I going to talk about? About
Well,
how
I
I'm
was
I'm
hoping
buried in paper now,
you
and
you're buried in paper, and you have shifted your research focus a little bit from geoengineering to bioengineering, which is also your third book that you are
yes,
writing. So that's what we're trying to
yes,
get into
yes.
some today. Yeah.
Right. And do I need to do any type of proving of the geoengineering going on, or is that pretty much accepted by your listeners?
Well, I think by my listeners it would be accepted, but I think that we still have new people coming on who really are not as familiar with it as they should be. So I think a good overview would not hurt any of us.
Okay, so should I go back over just a few things
Yep.
of how this works? Because that's the way I've come into the synthetic biology. I started out 9 years ago with looking at the chemical trails in the sky
Yeah.
and looking at the research already done by independent scientist Clifford Carnicum, who at that time happened to be a friend of mine in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So we were comparing notes. I was getting involved in it. I had a file on chemtrails, and I had a file on HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, ionosphere Keter, basically up in Gakona, Alaska. But I had them separate in my mind. I did not see their relationship. That's how little I knew at that time. And now I've come all the way from going from the chemical trails, looking at, to the best of my knowledge and research, what's in them, that we're breathing them, that the nano technology is huge now. It was never really emphasized by the mainstream media, which we all know is controlled. And I had to sort of dig and figure all that out. The first book, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, came out in 2014. That was really just a rehash and a sort of cameoing of certain aspects I felt had not been given enough attention and really needed to be in the forefront. And
Right.
those things would be these. A chapter on deconstructing Bernard Eastland's patent for HARP to see that control of the ionosphere was always the objective of the HARP experiments. And what was hidden in it was that it would implicate our own atmosphere through what they called the over-the-horizon communication. They had all sorts of nice words for it. But really, by the time 2013 arrived and they pulled the HAARP experiments for a while, and they had learned quite a bit from the ionosphere, Keter up in Alaska, and they being the U.S. Air Force, and always, always, always the CIA.
Right.
So that when HAARP had basically turned our atmosphere into a mini ionosphere, what I call the ionized atmosphere. And the title of my second book, because I was now doing full-scale discovery on lots of aspects, thanks to greatly Billy Hayes, the HAARP man, who had worked for his entire life, literally, from the time he was a child, for a three-letter agency that I've already mentioned, and for the defense contractors that were scrambling to put up lots and lots and lots of towers, lots of radar installations. A big militarization of the planet was going on for years and years through the Cold War, and then really big time after the Cold War was supposedly over, and we moved into yet another silent war. So when I entitled the second book, Under an Ionized Sky, from chemtrails to space fence lockdown, I was very much, I had written that book under Billy Hayes' tutelage. He had crawled up on all those towers, had been in charge of the team up in Gakona, Alaska. He knew he had been programmed under MK Ultra, which I, of course, am very familiar with, having
Right.
spent probably a decade studying it and the CIA and Kennedy's death and all the things I went into in that series of books that I have
Right.
now finished. Finally, after 20 years, I finished them. The Sub Rosa America series. So Billy was invaluable to me. I now and then went off on my own and found things and basically finished the book by 2018. Feral House brought it out. And and then through the process of writing that one, I began coming across more and more about the biological implications and the huge, huge move toward transhumanism, not just control of the planet and all living things, but the transhumanism that they would like, they being the global elite and the complicit scientists who work for them, and all of the dreamers and schemers who see this technology, this Tesla technology, as the ticket to absolute control, what the military calls the doctrine of full spectrum dominance. And then I was able to put it in, couch it in the space fence, couch the space fence, which is, by the way, run by Lockheed Martin, in the context of the secret space program that Catherine Austin Fitts has spent a great deal of time explaining to people how we're missing at least $21 trillion from the American budget that appears to have gone into black projects, secret projects, national security projects, and the space, the secret space program seems to be the culprit right away. So it all kind of is fitting, sort of like nesting dolls. I'm not pushing everything to fit together for my own thesis. I'm sort of inductively approaching it to see what the evidence is telling me, what direction it's going in. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand how someone can not be present. You know, it's kind of like Sherlock Holmes stuff. You're not present for the murder. You didn't see the murderer. The weapon is missing. there's a dead body, or maybe there's not a dead body, but you know the person is dead. How do you find out
Right.
what really is going on? And it's very much the same. And by the way, that's sort of my one indulgence is detective stories.
Oh, nice.
I do love
Well,
them.
that's why you're
If they're
fabulous.
thoughtful.
That's why you're
Huh?
so good at it. That's why you're so good at unraveling the mysteries that are going on.
Yes.
No joke. No joke.
Yes, yes, and of course, American detective stories are just, a big excuse for violence and sneering. I don't like those, but I do like European detective stories, and I read them, for bedtime reading, a little fun, because I don't, of course, watch TV. I think that's deadly. I think everyone ought to throw their TV out.
Exactly.
It's already bad enough I have a computer where I can I can see a lot of things.
Right.
So that's the path I took. Was each book began a revelatory process
Yeah.
that I had to follow, because that's how a good researcher is. A good researcher is someone who follows their nose, follows what comes up.
Right.
And, a lot of people have contacted me, probably thousands by now, with this, that, and the other, that have, some of which has guided me. Oh, I'd better check that out. And, oh, I'd better check that out. So to me, this is very unusual writing, very unusual research, not what I thought I'd be doing after I got my master's in historiography. I kind of had a clue, because I was already on the trail of the Sub Rosa America books, which were very exciting to write. And truthfully, Claudia, I don't know if I've told you this, but it was weird because I could not write fast enough for those books.
Wow.
People talk about writer block. I don't know that I've ever had writer block. I don't think I have. But I just could. I was finding out so much about the real America, about what we're calling the deep state now. Thanks to, I think it's Peter Dale Scott gave us that term, Professor Peter Dale Scott. So I really have come so far in this that I see how you do history when you have no books to go to in the library, right. When even you have to do a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request, which would take years. Right. And meanwhile, on the internet itself, all the open source stuff is there. Well, not all, probably, but quite a bit of open source stuff is there, from the military, from NASA. There's papers, there's patents, there's all sorts of material, right. Because they have spent 50 years making sure that Americans hate reading and would prefer to watch a video. Yes. Or watch a movie and not think, and move into alpha zone rather than beta or gamma thinking. So they don't care that it's in open source. But for me, that's just grist for my mill, that these things are hidden, but they're really there if you know where to look, and you find that way to get in there, and then you sort of compare it to something else you found, and you got a file from years and years. So it's been a heyday for me as a writer, to be able to have discovery at the same time. And I'm writing not so much because I'm an expert, but because I pay sharp attention, having been trained by years of studying Rudolf Steiner, whose huge thing is thinking and consciousness. It's been fantastic, and now I feel like I'm in the home stretch, Claudia, because I think this will be the last book I write on this topic, because I will have expended everything I can think of to awaken people to how to survive this. And the first thing to survive this, I mean, a lot of people are still thinking, how can we stop it? Truthfully, I don't see any way to stop it, given that this is a space age move. They have to keep the atmosphere ionized. They absolutely have to. And they can use some of the weather events that they're engineering, lightning and ways to create energy to quicken the energy already pregnant, that our sky is pregnant with, but they can't stop dropping nanoparticles. And because of their programs for data sensing, they've dropped trillions of nanosensors in the upper atmosphere, and we've breathed lots of those in, and then, they're all around us all the time. You just can't see them. The nanoparticle, a nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. I mean, you can't see that. But we know they have done this, and it makes sense because these sensors are about collecting data. And they're just vacuuming up masses of data. And now that they have AI system, artificial intelligence. So you get my picture. This is a very big thing. It's been developed over decades, I would say since Kennedy's assassination at the very least. But really, since we brought the paperclip Nazis over at the end of World War II, they were the ones who had been pursuing this all through the war years, and they led the way through the rocket programs. The rockets were important to get the satellites up, and now things have. The Nazis had also spent a great deal of time on exotic propulsion technology. They had ships, and they were head and shoulders above anything in the West, here in the U.S. And for the Nazis, the deal was sweetened because now they could move into the land that had masses of resources, and was naive and arrogant to boot, and could be manipulated quite well. So this secret space program really goes back to Wernher von Braun and his minions who came over, whose records were scrubbed, who were given carte blanche and everything American. They were put in the best houses, neighborhoods, universities, military bases, mental hospitals, etc. So that was the beginning of the end for the old United States of America. And now we're moving very fast into a technocratic, fascist society from all these decades. I mean, some people may think, whoa, this came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. This has been developed for decades since we brought the paperclip Nazis in. So that's sort of the big picture, which is what I'm known for, and it's easy to see if you've done as much reading and followed this trail since the '60s. I'm getting older now. I have to admit that, and I'm seeing so well. I mean, it's really wonderful when your youthful egotism sort of gives you a break, and then you can just sit and suddenly, wow, things just open up. And then that I have this skill in writing and speaking to the degree I have those skills, I feel very responsible to share with people. This last book will be very different from the first two, because now it's me talking. I don't feel anymore I need to prove everything with footnotes.
Right.
Whereas in the first two books I did, because it was being called a conspiracy theory. That term, by the way, came from the CIA. People who were seeing chemical trails were being made fun of. And by the way, that word chemtrails comes straight from the U.S. Air Force Academy. So I felt I had to really prove everything. Now I'm going to just speak, because yes, I'll prove some things about the synthetic biology and the bioengineering going on, but I'm going to bring in an amazing array of things that have to do with what we're experiencing now, such as targeting. I mean, targeting is essential to bring in, because they've been experimenting on people with brain-machine brain-computer interface, BCI, for decades now. And millions of people are now challenged with a horrific electronic concentration camp type of life. And targeted individuals who are listening know well what I'm saying. And I've paid very close attention to this and how it's developed, and interviewed many targeted individuals to see just what kind of program they're on, because there are manifold programs going on. The most recent one I've discovered in someone is a virtual reality program in which they can turn his environment into a digital environment, his home, and create cartoon holograms, full-scale size, right there in front of him. They go all the way from his nervous system into the environment around him. So we know this is electromagnetic fields. There's no way that this can be done without that. And we know that there's 60 hertz wiring in the walls of our homes. Right away, it's like we're living in an inverse Faraday cage. So this all has to do with this technology. And the interesting thing is, yes, space is the objective, but so is a human being, a new kind of human being that can make its way through space. They don't have that. Ever since they tried to blow to smithereens the Van Allen belts in the 50s with atomic bombs, those Van Allen belts, radiation belts above the planet, are really intended to keep us in our planet. And what they want is they want out, because they want domination, full spectrum dominance, not just of planet Earth, but of the solar system itself. That's what we're looking at right now. They're dreaming big. It's our nightmare, because we need to survive this. And my hope is that by people really getting some knowledge of being able to make what I call a mental picture of it, more or less, instead of that, we can counter the fear, we can counter the reactiveness, the emotionalism, as we more and more realize our condition in these smart cities, that they're making everything smart. I was talking to Deborah Tavares the other night, and she's following how the coding in California for new homes now will only allow electric. Wow. No gas, no oil, only electric, so that it can all the control over the homes and the neighborhoods is all locked down. It's all locked down. And this is what I was trying to get at by the title of my last book. So that's the direction I'm going in. I was able recently to speak with independent scientist Clifford Carnicom down in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And Clifford and I both stressed this move from geoengineering to bioengineering. This is what we need to concentrate on. They being NASA, the what's called, I think, the NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. All those, they have the big machines, the big expensive machines, and we don't. But we are the ones breathing in all of this nano debris from what is required by their programs to operate in our skies. So we need to concentrate on what will help us survive, our children, our grandchildren, etc. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. And so when you say bioengineering, can you get into that a little more, Elana? What are they engineering?
It's a huge, I mean, what they do, Claudia, in order to control the knowledge base. I mean, we don't live, well, yet. It's coming in a Soviet, totally controlled country. They have had this First Amendment problem in that, we have free speech here. As you know, on the internet now, that is not going to be the case.
Exactly.
At all. But how they've controlled this open knowledge is through first controlling the newspapers. That's been done since the 70s. That's called Operation Mockingbird. As you know, a mockingbird repeats what is around it. Right. That's what a mockingbird does. And the CIA took over the controls of major mainstream media, including television stations, including Hollywood, including New York Times, the Washington Post, etc. So that's the first thing. You take over that. Now with the internet, where you have so much going on, now we have the algorithms that are going to control, that are controlling already, not going to. They're controlling how we do searches. They're, hoovering up as much of our contacts, and everything is being hoovered up, and the patterns being identified by algorithms, and then those are sent on to agents who, develop files on some people, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a surveillance state. We're living in a surveillance state now. But the bioengineering part is the key. And it's sort of stayed hidden all along here. Yeah, we know we're breathing pollution. We've known that a long time. We had the asbestos, we had the tobacco. We've had various dramas created for us, by the way, by the mainstream media that's controlled. But the real drama of bioengineering is happening very quietly, and that goes to the geoengineering first. As you know, they're saying now, well, too bad, we're doing the geoengineering. We're spreading sulfur, we're spreading aluminum, whatever. This has been going on for 2 decades. This is not just beginning now, but what they are doing is, because they can't keep a muzzle on the whole chemical trail population that is awake to the fact that these are not natural clouds in the sky. These are plasma clouds. They're dry clouds. They're created by chemicals, a little bit of moisture, and radio frequency or microwaves, period. End of story. That's the way it is. So they admit it now, the geoengineering, but they can't quite admit everything about it because it's connected to the bioengineering that must remain secret, because this is how they're going to control us, is what I finally figured out. I used to wonder, gosh, okay, I know transhumanism is coming. I know that the BCI, the brain-computer interface, is the cyborg of the future. They're gonna, they're getting these computers in us. They're getting these implants in us. They're getting these nanobots in us. Now, this is the latest, the nanobots. They're coming down with the debris from the chemical trails, and for a long time in our movement, the anti-geoengineering movement, we, the so-called leading researchers, would argue about whether we were just breathing what was coming from the combustion chamber and had been put into the formula of the fuel that then went through a transmutative process called pyrolysis, that I quote in my book from Harold Kautzvella, I might add, the young German chemist who's quite a genius in his own right. This pyrolysis transforms a lot of these elements into other periodic table elements, and through the process of oxidation, it all becomes different. So there's that going on. We argue, yeah. And then some would say, isn't there some sort of supplementary system that's being activated? And I was one of those proponents, because the one thing I know, you're hearing the garbage truck behind me, by the way. Sorry about that.
No problem. And Elana, can I move you? Can I move you over a little bit again? Just a hair.
Over here?
Yep, perfect. All set.
Yeah, keep me on the straight and narrow here,
Yep.
Claudia.
Perfect.
Where was I? Let's see. The geoengineering is secret. So yes, we're breathing in these particles, and we're just sort of slowly putting together, through looking at patents and papers, what is in the fuel, because lo and behold, it's classified. You can't
Really
find out what's in the fuel, and that includes commercial jets, because they're using JP8 fuel just like the military is. Now, maybe not just like the military is, but it's the same basic fuel. So I maintain that there are supplementary systems dropping various chemical compositions along with what's coming out of the combustion chamber, because all of our areas are different. They're geomagnetically different. Right. Your area in the Northeast is entirely different from mine in the Northwest, even though latitude-wise, we're close. So it's not just latitude and longitude, it's also the geomagnetic imprint or signature of various areas. And they're smart enough to know that you're probably going to get a different response or reaction with different chemicals and different geomagnetism. So I know that they are doing that. So there has to be a supplementary system. Anyway, that was part of it, but it was the nanoparticles that finally spoke to me that, okay, how are they going to do the transhumanism? They're not going to drag all of us into a clinic.
Right.
They're not going to wait for the 60s generation. They want the 60s generation to die off, because it's the largest generation in history, and it's a real drain on the money. So I understand that, but I don't think that's the only reason they want my generation to die off, by the way. The aging generation. Then the young generations are the ones who are now really the targets. And you can see that easily. So when people are so quick to judge the younger generations, you got to understand that every fascist power seeks to control the youth first, because that's the future. And those are going to be the carriers of the ideology of the day. So that's going on. And meanwhile, all of us are breathing in these nanoparticles. Some of those nanoparticles are just heavy metals, conductive heavy metals, like aluminum, barium, strontium, chromium. The list is endless. Lithium. Right. So those are all in us. And no, we can't poop and urinate and sweat them all out. Can't. Won't happen. What happens to them is they go in our tissues. They go from our lungs into our bloodstream. Some of them are stored in our tissues. A lot of them go up to the brain and easily bypass the blood-brain barrier, and they're in our brain. So if we wonder why the memory is not as good as it used to be, can't concentrate to read, all sorts of looking at this idea of Alzheimer's being genetic, which, by the way, you change your genetics all the time. So this idea that there's some sort of fatalism in genetics is for the most part really nonsense and not true. It's just part of our programming, conditioning. so you have Alzheimer's at one end, and you have autism at the other end of life, the bookends of life, because of the aluminum, the nanoparticles of aluminum that we're breathing in. So one of the first things I know is, no, they're not going to take us into clinics and hospitals and give us lots of shots. Yeah, they're going to start children out with shots in order to better prepare them for the transhumanism that they're going to undergo in their lives. That's what this whole thing is about, of all these, how the shots have increased, I can't remember, threefold, fourfold.
Oh my God, many times, yes.
Yeah, it's prepping them, and all those shots are piggybacked with other things. It's not, to me, it's not about wiping out the race. It's not about, like a lot of activists seem to be going in that direction. I don't see it that way. They could do that anytime. They have the technology that could wipe out millions easily. So it's not about that. It's about experimenting as they move toward another type of human being that they want in order to explore and conquer the, our planetary system. So they're not going to take us into clinics and hospitals. They don't need to do that. They're going to do it through the environment. That's what's going on. And we're breathing it in. We're eating it in GMOs. We're drinking it in the water. And now it's in us. Okay, so now we look at 5G, because everybody's obsessed with 5G. First of all, I want to admit that I am of the school of thought from talking with someone several months ago, that the 5G, the millimeter wave phased array antenna mechanism is already in the 4G phones. It's already here. Now all they need are the antennas. And if you think you can find the 5G antenna going up in your neighborhood, I think that's a ruse. I think that they're using many, many, many antennas. They need lots because, as you know, the millimeter wave does not go that far, but it's very good for exact targeting. So you have the genetics are going to be affected by the millimeter wave and phased array antenna. But it's also that these nanobots are transceivers in us, many of them. They receive information from some fusion center somewhere, and they transmit information to these fusion centers, which then, it goes in the AI system and pattern recognition and all the stuff they do. But because these nanobots can be contacted remotely, this is going to be our problem, is what if they activate all the Morgellons pathogens in my town at once? Well, it's going to be bedlam. Because, that's what I've decided, is that the reason some people have Morgellons lesions and some don't, like I don't, is not just because of my immune system or whatever, though that possibly plays a role. But it can be remotely triggered. So they want to experiment with Morgellons, and they have the right genetic makeup in so-and-so and so-and-so in two very distant cities. Well, they're going to hit them and activate their Morgellons and follow that very carefully and take notes and hack into the hospital records and, really follow that. And then they have the cameras, of course, from satellite that can see down to a postage stamp. So it's all remote. This is how mind control is happening. MK Ultra has graduated now to remote programming. They can activate pathogens in us. They can activate Ebola or dengue fever or whatever. They don't need the mosquitoes necessarily. They know the signature of Ebola, and that's all they need. So this is sort of I think the game plan. Now the question is, will it work? Well, I don't think they're entirely sure.
Right.
But I think that they are moving steadily toward some sort of event that will indicate how well this is going to work. And it's been all preparation for a long time. And so, to me, I'm concentrating on helping people find a way to take care of themselves, their immune system, their consciousness, because consciousness, and I've maintained this for years, and as I said, I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner. Consciousness has not really been attempted as a true defense. We're always thinking of developing new skills, perhaps clairvoyance or meditation, and we enter other realities or whatever. But as a true defense in life, I don't think we've really given it a decent shot.
I agree.
And I'm very dedicated to that. And now I've come up with this idea. It's just an idea, and I think one group is going along, following my guidelines in Los Angeles. Another is considering it somewhere else, but it's a commitment, and it is to read everybody's having trouble reading, and like, why does Elana even write books? I mean, everything is in there and will lead to all sorts of other gates, but if you can't concentrate and you can't remember what you just read in the previous paragraph, you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. So that's why I recommended that people form study groups, and that they read my book, not because it's my book, but because there's no other book on this stuff.
Right.
Right. There's none other. What can I say? I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked that there aren't a dozen books on this. But I felt the same way when I was discovering Operation Paperclip. There was nothing on it. It was a conspiracy theory.
Right.
So the people are going to read the book in a certain way. They're going to get together. They're going to read, each reader will read a paragraph or two or whatever, and then they can discuss it. They'll go for an hour and a half. They're all, the point that is my point is that while they're doing that and concentrating and bearing down together on these thought forms that are in my book, they are in the same frequency together. Their consciousness is all on the same frequency. Right. This is not meditation, because I'm not really interested in people going into a delta frequency. We need people who can think. We need people who can stay alert, is what we need. We don't need meditation to drift away into another place. And I have tried to figure out how to do this in a group, because in a group you have more power than you do alone at home. You've had a busy day. You're trying to read Elana's book, and pretty soon you're asleep. So this idea of getting in the same frequency, and what I maintain is that because I'm talking about how this technology works, I'm also talking about the frequency that the technicians and the scientists who have created this stuff are in. Right. They're visiting that zone too, because true concepts come from a certain place. They are not just made up out of nothing. They exist and pre-exist. I'm very much like Socrates in that all of knowledge is memory. So that's what I'm trying, Claudia. I mean, it's a way to build activism you get a real knowledge base of this technology
Right.
to the degree I understand it, and then they can take it further. They can bring in other people. They can bring in, and now they're getting more comfortable with concepts, because most people are just comfortable with feelings. They don't really want to do the work of thinking and analysis and stuff. And I can understand that. I'm kind of good at it, and I love it. I really do love it, because I understand it. It actually takes you somewhere. It's not high school and how they killed your love of learning in high school,
Right.
in grade school. It's not that. You can resurrect that, and you can understand these concepts so that you have a knowledge base that can feed your consciousness to make it strong, so that even the nanos and even all of this contacting through the 5G can be thwarted, and we move in another direction.
Right.
I really want to give it a decent try anyway. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, I think there is so much truth to that, because one of the things I realized about 2 years ago, a friend of mine had sent me a novel, and I hadn't sat down with a novel in a couple of years. And I started reading, and I couldn't focus. I could not focus. And as soon as I realized, like you say, you can't get from one paragraph to the next, I was thinking, well, I'm going to keep my ass on that couch with the book until I learn to focus again. And then it took me literally a couple hours for my brain to stop going, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, and what about this, and what about, I mean, I was so scattered in my head, I couldn't keep it together. And then I got into the flow of things again, and then I started reading again, like just reading anything that isn't a soundbite and a blurb and an article and a quick little thing, We have lost that ability. And I was thinking, but I grew up with reading hundreds of books, or I don't know how many books, but books every week. I mean, a book. But kids nowadays, they don't even know what that is a lot of times anymore, to read a whole book every week. Any book, that has a thread to it. And so I think you are totally onto something. We need to rekindle thinking and focusing and sharpening our sense. And at the same time, I also feel we need to stay in a frequency that is not of fear. Because I think if we're in this place of fear, we really can't function right to start out with. And I tell people, if all of this makes you too afraid, then step back, do something else, and come back when you don't feel so, when you don't have sleepless nights necessarily anymore. Because I think it's very important that we stay in a good frequency.
Yes, and I think that people need to become more aware of what frequency is. Now, the intelligence agencies of America, anyway, and I'm sure other nations, they have a list of frequencies of everything, every emotion, every type of thought, every chemical, every environment. They constantly have an AI program collecting and correcting these calibrations of frequencies, because frequencies are like phone numbers. They can dial in to your frequency. Now, where I'm seeing it, and I have said this several times on radio interviews, I'm absolutely serious. The reason I do not own a cell phone, I do not want that military weapon anywhere near me. I do not want to become accustomed to it and bond with it the way people have bonded with their cell phones. Right. Because, this is the big reason, they can pulse me right through my cell phone.
Yeah.
Whether it's on or not, does not matter. And for a while when the cell phones were not so sophisticated and did not have phased array antennas in them. 4G has phased array antenna in it. They were having to go through the cell towers Well, now they just go straight to your cell phone. And if they need to triangulate to do something to you, such as put a thought in your mind that, I've had people say to me, yeah, I had this weird thought that I was really surprised I had it. Well, had you considered it wasn't your thought,
Right.
that you have been pulsed? Yes, the technology is there. It's already there. And having the cell phone is just easing the whole move to the weaponizing of our own consciousness. These people who become absolutely unglued about Trump. I mean, is anyone else going, wow, that's weird, to become absolutely unglued,
Right.
in tears? And I had someone at my local co-op back just after the election screaming at me on the way out the door.
Yeah.
Because I had said that, when she had said at least Hillary Clinton was a human being, and I said, I don't think so. If you do your research and really look at them in Mena, Arkansas, at the governor's house, and see that there are 178 people died on their way to the White House, I'm not sure that that's true. And then I'm screamed at.
Yeah.
And this person has completely lost it and will probably never speak to me again. Has anyone else thought this is kind of over the top?
Right.
Well, I think they're being pulsed. I think whole towns are being pulsed now.
Yeah.
And how do you plan to protect yourself? Yes, you can use aluminum foil to a degree. You can buy, I was listening to someone say silver cloth. Matt Landman, in fact, is recommending silver cloth as a way to block radio waves. But what about consciousness? What are you going to do when they're in your head? And you're hearing thoughts that are pretty mean, and you're having emotions for no good reason, that are over the top. So consciousness can definitely help that. Being very mindful of your environment. Do you have the router on while you're sleeping? Well, that's a bad idea. You should turn the router off. Is your head to the north or east? Does your bed have metal in it? These are things that, we shouldn't have to think about these. Land protected by the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, but that's over. That's over. So that's an antique now. So that's what I'm saying is, let's take this seriously. This is not just the geoengineering into bioengineering, Claudia, is not just another issue. This is the issue. Every single other issue people are working on, electromagnetics and sensitivity, vaccinations, GMO foods, you name an issue, fluoride in the water. And I will tell you that it's all roads lead to Rome. And Rome in this case is transhumanism. And that's what I have discovered, and what I'm going to write one more book on.
Right. And the sad thing is that people don't dare maybe to look at the whole picture, or to try to find the whole picture. So they focus on one issue, which is good. If I would, and I talk a lot about vaccines, it's good to place a focus, but you can't lose sight of the entire picture. I think that's a danger when we hunker down in just one issue, which is why I feel it's important to have somebody like you on, so we tie it all together. This is not the issue. The whole ball of, kettle of worms is the issue. And
right, at least I was going to say, at least to consider that if your issue is vaccinations, it's a very important issue. And a lot is going on in that right now, and the electromagnetics. It's wonderful. but to understand that it's connected to the geoengineering and to understand the technology of that. And it's as though each of us has a different ability to expand consciousness to embrace a larger picture.
Right.
And other people are very good at the narrow, but to not exclude and not oh, well, that's just another, make assumptions. I mean, how do you get better from being programmed and conditioned when your whole thinking has been set up to be programmed and conditioned? I mean, it's really a real problem, right? I mean, I think it was, I don't remember who it was, Einstein or someone said, you can't really use the same thing that creates a problem to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And this is our problem,
Right.
is our thinking. See, I was an only child, and I was in my own world. I was not, I did not have a good, loving family. So I entered another world of my own making, and books were huge in that.
Right.
And it was always easy because I was sort of a prodigy, and so, you know, I was skipped grades, and you know, and it was Sputnik was in the sky, and so, oh, we gotta hurry and let's put her in a 3 years and 2 years program. So everything was push, 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 but somehow, because I was still in my own solitary only child world, I was able to survive that, and then I've always loved people. Always loved, you know, talking to strangers, and I used to drive my mother crazy that I would just talk to anyone.
Right.
So, you know, I have found my way, and never let my education convince me otherwise, and have developed my own thinking, and found my way to Rudolf Steiner, where I learned a lot about how to think, and what thinking really is, and how it relates to the heart, and all that. So this idea of thinking, you know, I don't want people to think I'm talking about memorizing lists of geoengineering statistics. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the kind of thinking, I call that grocery list thinking. Anybody can do that. Any intellectual can do that. But to go deep into something so you can discover its meaning and its actual intent.
Right.
That's what we need.
Right.
Because these guys have a lot of intent.
Right.
And they've hidden it from us, and they've lied about it.
Yeah.
And so there's this sort of veil between us and the truth. And I think what a lot of people are doing, Claudia, is they're doing what we've done for many millennia. They're waiting for an authority figure to come and tell them what is true and what is not true.
Yes.
And you know, people try to make me into that, but I'm on a quest myself. I'm on a quest of discovery, because this is unfolding right before our eyes. Every day there's some new thing. Well, you know, when they say, oh, we've discovered this, and now we're going to spend 10 years getting it right. No, we know that's already done. That is already functioning. You can take it to the bank.
Yep.
That is already a fact. Yep. And that's how we can discover on our own. But we have to become very shrewd readers.
Right.
And not wait for the whistleblowers, and not wait for, you know, Robert Kennedy Jr. To lead a movement. We have to take a risk here. And to do that, we do what you did on the couch with the book, is we've got to pump some iron back into our ability to concentrate. Yep. That's the first thing. Yeah. You cannot read without concentrating. That's the one thing. And that's what everybody's avoiding. Because you can sit on the couch, turn on a video or a TV program or something, and right away you're an alpha wave. Right. And you are so programmable. You are so programmable at that moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't prefer that.
Yeah. No, and it's really, and one of the things that you mentioned is, you know, turn off your router. And I've told that to my listeners many, many times. At night, I flipped the breaker to the entire house. Everything got shut down. And I literally only have like, I don't know, 5 outlets in my house. And
Gosh.
it's so little wiring, and it's all logs, log cabin. So that actually the town considers it a camp because it doesn't have enough outlets and it doesn't have enough this and that and the other thing. And I'm telling you, if I, for some, like I just was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I spent 2 nights in a hotel. And of course, wiring that my body doesn't experience ever, except when I go to a city, when I have to go to a city-ish type environment. I had zero dreams, or at least I didn't remember anything. At home, I have the most vivid dreams. I have the most vivid intuition during the night, where everything gets clear. I wake up, I'm like, oh, this needs to be done. Like it's clear in my head. And in Hartford, zero dreams, not a memory at all what happened that night, nothing. And I'm like, wow, that is amazing. Really
That is
such
true.
a difference, and here I flip the breaker, everything is off, the entire house that comes into the house, nothing comes in, and then it really changes everything. And I understand not everybody can do that, but people can unplug their router, they can put their cell phone into the car at night and lock that up, so it's not next to your bedroom. We can do certain things. It's not most convenient, but we can do them, And
Right.
I oftentimes realize when I do like this interview with you, my computer is on and my cell phone is on, so I see the comments that are coming in a little bit and keep an eye on that. But it really, I'm glad when I get off because it warps. It's like a warp almost. It doesn't feel right to my brain. It doesn't feel right having all this directed at me and only 2 feet away from my head. So it's really very different.
Yes. Oh, you're so fortunate. I mean, it's not just fortunate. You've created that environment for yourself, and that is to your credit. I think a lot of people feel in America that convenience it's like a religion or something. Yeah. It's unbelievable. There should be churches of convenience, where convenience is worshipped, and and people get together and pray for more convenience.
It's called shopping mall, Elana. It's called shopping malls.
Okay.
We have them.
Yeah, I mean, what is that saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yep.
Well, it's also paved with convenience.
Yes.
With shopping malls.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So the dreams, that's a really good point, Claudia, because I'm living in a place now. I mean, I move around a lot for various reasons. And I hardly dream.
Wow.
I sacrificed my dreams in order to live in cheap places that are wired.
Wow.
I'm sure of it. But after this book is done, I'm going to take another look at how I'm aging and what I need to do next. Yeah. I really need to think about that. But I've been driving myself now for, almost a decade on this particular topic because it's so crucial that somebody writes something and put it out there.
Right.
So that's a really good point about the dreams because I miss my dreams. I had a dream the other night. I woke up from it, and that really felt good. And it wasn't that important a dream, or it didn't seem that important, but I was really there, and that was great.
And I think that dream time is really when we process a lot of things, when intuition comes in. And if we live in an environment that is completely radiation, then maybe we are getting told what to think during the dream time because we are so gullible at night, when we sleep.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So we have to build you a tiny house, Elana, to live in.
Well,
and move around.
A gypsy wagon.
A gypsy wagon. Yep.
Yeah, my experience of sleeping, and I'm sleeping, ever since my shoulder thing happened. Of course, my sleep has been a little different, but I'm sleeping almost exactly 4.5 hours a night now.
What?
That's
it?
4.5 hours. Well, sometimes I can go back, but I think it's true that I need less sleep now.
Wow.
And I do have a cup of coffee in the morning, so let's fess up here. But I'm not. I think that it has something to do with a shift that may be electromagnetically happening by the military up here, would be my guess. I don't know. I haven't taken a survey to see if other people are waking up then. But if I want more sleep, then I'll do 4.5 one night, and then I'll do a full day. I'll do a half-hour power nap in the afternoon, and then that night I'll sleep probably 6. 6 is usually the most I can sleep.
Wow.
6 hours. I'll sleep 6 hours and straight through and feel great. Wow. I'll make up for the hour and a half I didn't get, but I think it may have something to do with some sort of trigger going off. It's not at 3 a.m., which is the circadian rhythm. It is. It's usually, it depends when I go to bed, doesn't it? I usually go to bed about 11:30, and then 4.5 hours later, boom, I'm awake.
See, I like to, especially in the summer when it's lighter longer where I live, I really like to go to bed with the sun, meaning 9:30ish, 10 o'clock, and see the sun go down until it's dark. And then I wake up when the sun comes up around 4:30 or so. I wake up, but then I usually stay in bed a little longer and snooze. But I'm like, oh, okay, the day is starting. And I love that. And last year I did that too. For the first time, where I really went to bed with the sun, got up with the sun. But then as it switches to dark, I would be tired by like 6 o'clock in the evening. I start yawning and I'm like, oh my God, I can't go to bed yet. So that really messed me up a little. But I would say I get 7-8 hours a night, and my body really feels like it needs that, and I feel really rested when I wake up.
Yeah. But you've got the router off, and you've only got 5 outlets.
Right, exactly. And they get shut down at night.
I think if I had that, I would be sleeping more too.
I'm telling you, Elana, when people come here to stay with me at my cabin occasionally, friends of mine, and they live in a city, they sleep. They go to bed at 9, and they sleep till 9, 10 in the morning. I mean, they are in recovery, literally.
Yes, they are
exhausted. Right. And it's amazing how much sleep. And they're like, I can't believe I slept that long. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. And they go to bed at 9 or at 9:30 or 10, and they're like, I can't believe I slept that long. I never have slept that long in my whole life.
No, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, and I have to admit that the 4.5 hours, this is the writing me. Right. This is not the not writing me. When I'm not writing, I'm not as high pitched.
Right.
But I'm high pitched now.
Right.
Yeah. And like I say, I go with the flow. Because like the other night I got up, I had a title for the book. I had to get up and write it down before it was gone.
Right.
I don't know if I'll use it or not. But if I get a thought, I've got to get up and write it down because it won't be there. It won't be there.
Yeah.
And I know that now. So that's part of it too, is there's a part of me that goes on alert. Now, like last night, I didn't sleep very well because I knew I was going to be talking to you at 8.
Aww.
And, it's like, I'm fine. I've got the alarm set. Everything's set. But there's a part of me that's already anticipating that, the morning is going to be different from what it usually is. Right. So then I don't sleep as well. it's just, but I think all this talk about sleep is very important because we must protect our sleep. And I'm convinced that I actually leave my body for hours at a time.
Yep.
I'm gone. And, I have had a couple of memories of being up in space during sleep and traveling really fast, I might add.
Right.
So there's that too, that we're not just tucked away in the bed, though, but, in my way of looking at it through a Steiner lens, my body is healing.
Right.
My etheric body is busy rebuilding my tissues, working on my shoulder to get it better, doing all kinds of things while I'm out of the body, because when I'm in my body, it's a real weight, and that's what drives people nuts who are sleep deprived, and that's where those who torture, that's the first thing they take, is sleep. And because without that sleep, we begin to go a little batty, and it's because we can't bear this being in the body always. We've got to get out. We've got to me, I always say I go home, and I go up somewhere up there, because I've been conscious of being up there a few times. I must be going up there. Then, and I talk to people who are much wiser than I am, and I get help. I get a lot of help. And then when I come back in my body, my ether body has been healing my physical body all night. Everybody, it's good.
Right.
So we must protect our sleep, and it must not be electromagnetic.
Right.
It must not, because electromagnetic is the antithesis of true ether. And ether is what Wilhelm Reich talked about as orgone. He renamed it orgone. It's virtually the same thing, though, the orgone people may argue with me about that. Right. So that ether body has to do its healing, and the dream imprints come from that impressing some of that learning and digestion of what we've done during the day, and comes as pictures that we can pick up on, if we're not in an electromagnetic environment that's sort of intrusive on our inner life. Yeah. That's the thing, is how to maintain our inner life, which includes sleep, without electromagnetics. Right. This is what I'm concerned. I meet very shallow people now, a lot. I mean, extremely shallow. That used to not be the case, to tell you the truth. I don't know. Was I hanging out with? I don't hang out with anyone, truthfully, but I encounter young people who are just not very developed. It's as though they're still sleeping in some way, and I all they need is to be around some people like me for a little while, and they will find their way to awakening more. I mean, awakening is not just one thing, right? It's a constant. And then when you are awake, you can be more awake, but to at least protect that awake that you have. Right. And to look at your lifestyle as the first thing. Okay, what has to go in order to stay this awake? Right. Okay, no TV. Everybody should have I once had a TV smashing party, Claudia. Nice. I invited people over, and we smashed 4 TVs. Nice. I love it. It was great. And then we had to clean it up, of course. Right. We had to clean it up. And go to the dump, and and put it in the right place, but it was very cathartic. Very cathartic.
Yes. Yeah. Well, when people come here and you're saying, because I truly believe that we can influence people on just a very non-conscious level. And when they come here, and I see that now so clearly, because last August I started my farm sanctuary, and I started taking animals, sheep, goats, all of that stuff, and a pig. And when people come here, and because the animals are so grounded,
Yes.
they are so grounded. And as soon
Yeah.
as the negativity is taken out of their life, where they have enough food and can roam around, and they are amazing healers. And as soon as people spend even a half an hour with them, they change amazingly so. I mean, they become calmer because people are
Yes.
so frantic nowadays. Everybody's so frantic all the time. And I get frantic when I have a project that I want to finish. I become a totally different person. I can be very German all of a sudden, you know. But generally, people are so frantic for no good reason. We're just always stressed. And so as soon as they hang with the animals, even for a short period of time, they change. Their whole energy changes. They're like, wow, I haven't been that relaxed in I don't even know how long. It changes instantly.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
amazing.
And that part of that is the electromagnetic environment. So now with the smart
Yeah.
city, what they're doing, this terrible technocracy, is you are surrounded by sensors. You
Yeah.
can't see them; they're nano, but they're there. They're in the sidewalk. They're in the streets. They're everywhere. And what these technocrats want is they want it to be everywhere: trees, forests, everywhere. So they're in the sky. They're in the environment of the cities. They're in our bodies. They're in our brains. And we have to deal with this. And so, the first thing is to become educated about the technology.
Yeah.
And that could start with electromagnetics right in the home. That 60 hertz can be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
It can be weaponized by this technology. So, you don't have to be a targeted individual to realize that we're all being targeted to one degree or another, and that degree may be amped up once the 5G is completely in place. And I'm not convinced. I'm not at all a believer in the so-called schedule.
Right.
The so-called schedule is nothing. It's being done now. Some people are seeing in their cities big bunches of phone workmen trucks and workmen standing around before they're like an army. They're like an army, and they're putting up the weapons. And people just find it hard to believe you would do that to your own people. But this is bigger than one's own people. This is at least to the masters of war.
Yeah.
This is much bigger. This is full spectrum dominance.
Right. Well, and I think one of the reasons they can roll it out like that is because very, very few people actually have the whole pictures. The phone guy might think, well, I'm just installing a few new boxes. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know what he's exactly doing there. So
That's
they
right.
just get little. I always liken it to McDonald's. If you're a burger flipper, that's all you do. You don't do the French fries, and you don't do the ketchup and the cucumber on the burger. You just do the patty. And so I think that's a lot of times
Yeah.
what's going on, because I think if those people that are actually doing the work would know what they are doing, they would not want to do it to protect their own
Yes.
families. But they don't.
And that can go. Yeah, and that can go for the scientists who are working on all these projects. They're all operating in compartmentalized, need-to-know basis with security clearances.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
very different. Very different if they had the whole picture.
Right.
This is one of the minuses of mass society, really, is you have this Henry Ford assembly line mentality.
Right.
Of how this all works, and how you can get a lot of food out there fast,
Right.
how you can get a lot of products out there fast, how in the case of the PhD, the laborious process of getting good in one tiny specialization that is needed for a bigger specialization that is needed for even a bigger specialization, etc.
Right.
All of that. It makes sense, but the fact that no one is informed of what is going on
Right.
Only the head honchos know that.
Right.
That's the real sad part of this.
Right.
Is then think karmically. What does that do karmically for us? If we're working for in England it would be Vodafone, or in America it would be what, AT&T or whatever these cell
Right.
phone people are. And you're a salesperson, and you don't really know what they're doing, what's coming, and you don't know that much about the technology. Well, what does that mean? Are you just you don't know, so you're not responsible?
Right.
Is this how it works? I mean, I've always been very aware of that sort of thing, and had job opportunities when I was younger that I felt would probably lead in a direction that I did not believe in.
Right.
So, I would not go in that direction. But on the other hand, I drove a car, and I knew that, the fumes and the gas and all that, and the oil, the oil companies were making fortune. But, you can't stay pure in this world. There's no question about that. But I do wonder about working for these huge, vast corporations. You will learn a lot about perhaps what doesn't work, but is seemingly essential in a mass society. In a lot of societies, the mass society is pretty modern.
Right.
I suppose they had it in Alexandria many, 2,500 years ago, when the library at Alexandria was burned down. Tremendous loss, I think. But it was, there was international city. Jerusalem has always been an international city. So, you have these places that are mass societies, but they were smaller. Right. Now you have this giant country called the United States that is eating mass food, owned by very few. What happens if something happens to that food source? Yikes!
Right.
That sort of thing. The mass society. We're learning about living in a mass society, and that, I think, that's important.
Yeah.
But it has a big dark side, a very big dark side. I don't know if I can think of any part of it being a light side. Can you? Mass society. Is there anything good about it? You can get goods fast. You can get goods cheap.
Cheap and fast, and lose quality and lose energy.
Yeah.
I mean, mass societies, I think, if led by enlightened beings, there might be some good to that, but it's not.
No.
It's not led by enlightened beings, it's led by the opposite. And that's what makes it so.
It's dependent on some form of slavery. So one level or another of slavery.
Absolutely.
No other way to do it, to keep goods cheap. Right. I remember when I lived in England, I was surprised by how everything there was, I would say, 3 times as expensive as it was in the United States. And that's when I understood. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I remember the normal taxpayer in England was paying 60% tax.
Right.
That's a lot. So I realized that part of it was we were getting all our goods from China,
Exactly.
all our clothes.
Yes.
And the food was GMO.
Right.
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 Yeah. So anyway, that's all something too that. Is the backdrop of this situation of technocracy coming in. Right. And another reason why in a mass society you have a mass consciousness, and the mass consciousness tends to accept what's coming down the pike. Right. It just accepts it. Only small pockets of people say, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
This is not First Amendment. This is not the way we used to do it.
True. But it only takes 3% to change everything, because the masses then follow.
That's always been the case.
Yeah, it only takes
3%.
Right. And I honestly think that we collectively are gaining, I see that on just people following me. People who used to say you're so full of shit and you're like you're a conspiracy theorist. Now they're posting about the things that I talked about, and they no longer think it's a conspiracy. Just by that, I mean, people are taking a closer look, and I think we are reaching some sort of a mass because they're also fighting us more. They're
Yeah.
fighting us more. They're censoring us more. They're trying to shut us down in different ways. They're trying to shut down, small farms. I mean, just as a little example of farmers markets, because they're blossoming. They're trying
Yes.
to start putting heavy regulations on all that. So I think the dark side is gaining, but we are gaining. I mean, they are trying to implement their plan, but I think we are also really gaining too.
Yes.
And in macrobiotics they would say the bigger the front, the bigger the back. So we are I think making a difference slowly. I don't know whether it's fast enough, and I don't know what happens on a mass scale, but I think
Hmm.
more people are waking up. And nothing, Elana, makes me happier than when some of my viewers write me and say, we're moving out of the city, we just bought 4 acres in the country, and we're starting to homestead. That to me is like hallelujah. I'm just so over the moon happy when I hear that nothing makes me happier, because I'm thinking, okay, now you got a chance.
Yeah.
Because if they stay in a city, I honestly think there is much of a chance.
No, I know. No, you're right. And yet, Claudia, that's where my burden lies, is the
Right,
poor and the downtrodden.
right,
Now I'm living in a low income housing that I qualified for. And uh, it's the poor, it's the aging, it's the disabled, and it's immigrants.
right,
And it's the crazy.
right,
72 units in this sort of strange village
right,
where
right,
where most people here are uneducated
right,
and have gotten probably a pretty rough deal in life, would be
right,
my guess. And I'm happy to be here because I don't have to. I'm paying so little rent that I don't have to think about it now, and I can write,
right,
and that's wonderful. But
right,
there is a part of me that, just the reason I came back from England, I could have stayed as a
right,
citizen, but I wanted to, as I say, go down with the Titanic.
right.
But you're telling me we're going to save the Titanic, maybe the rowboats.
Well, I think some get on the rowboats and the rest is gonna drown. I'm not even
That's
joking. I
well,
really
that's
think
the homesteaders, the
that's
rowboats.
the
That's
rowboats
the
are the
homesteaders to
people.
me.
Yep, it's the homesteaders.
Yeah,
It's the people in the country. It's the Rudolf Steiners. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
it's the people who understand that nature is paramount, and that's where we need to be.
And we're connected. We're connected to this planet.
Right,
This is not just where we end up. This is
right,
this is us, and our
right,
planet is us.
right.
Um, by the way, I have an essay in a book that will be coming out soon, from Europe. It's called what is the global warning? Not
Mm-hmm.
global warming, global warning!
Right,
Exclamation point. And it's by about a dozen women. I'm the only American, I believe, but the rest are European, and they're mostly professors at universities across Europe, I noticed. Um,
uh,
we've all written an essay on geoengineering and how we look at it. And we
nice,
all are different. We don't know each other. But that book will be coming out. I don't know when, but I'll keep you posted on that.
wonderful.
And it's interesting to see how in Europe, in my opinion, they're where I was a few years ago,
Right,
from what I've seen. I mean, we're really living in the belly of the beast here.
I agree.
And that's, of course, why I came back. I want to live in the belly of the beast.
Right, right,
It's a sort of sacrifice. I haven't had a private life for so many years. I don't remember what it was like. I don't remember if it was very good or not. Maybe it was good. Maybe it was good and difficult. I don't remember.
Right.
But I've always borne this burden for the public.
Right.
You know? And it's so cool that you can do what you do for the public right there in your cabin. Right?
Well, you know,
that's so awesome.
I always feel like I have been told so many times, if you don't like it here, why don't you go back where you came from? You know, like back to Germany. And I go, well, clearly this country needs me the most, you know. And I go through that thought often where I go, should I leave? Because I could live other places, you know. But I feel this is really where I need to be. And I feel by living this life that I live, very simply, very non-materialistic, maybe I can inspire some people that are on the fence. You know, some people that are going, well, should I move into the country, but I like the city? Or, you know, can I sway them to the other side? You know, and I think some people do. And I think it's important. And I also, because I have those cabins that I rent out, some of my renters, they're like, you know, this was the best week of my life being here because I see how little I need. I don't need all those things that I think I need. And I think we're going to downsize. And some of them going to learn how to build a log cabin with me soon. You know, I'm going to do a little workshop and stuff. And so I think it's really, unless we are hands-on and get off our collective butts, nothing's going to work. You know, nothing's going to work.
Wonderful.
And
I just love that you're there.
And you do have to eventually trek over to the East Coast and come visit, you know.
Oh, Rob, that's what Rob from the Vermont.
Yes, Rob Williams. I love Rob.
Williams was saying that. He says, we're going to get you out here for lunch.
Right. Oh, that would be so wonderful. That would be so wonderful.
Well, I told you that a long time ago. I feel that I walked across half of Vermont one beautiful, clear October night. And it's one of my best memories of the 60s. I was on my way to Montreal, and I walked across half of Vermont. And
wow. Nice.
It was just so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Forgotten it. I mean, I know you're in New Hampshire. Are you in Vermont? You're
Vermont.
in Vermont,
in Vermont. Right. But, you know, Vermont is getting really, really strangely asleep. I mean, like soundly asleep. And it's
now,
very
go
strange. Back
to the idea of the different chemical mix.
Right. Yeah.
Gotta think chemically now.
Yeah. It is. It's really like, I want to grab everybody and shake them and go, what the hell is going on? You know? And they are soundly asleep. I mean, New Hampshire is spearheading, at least doing independent studies on 5G. You know, they are actually trying to do something. But Vermont is like, okay, we're going to get 5G. I mean, not everybody. We have some activists. But generally speaking, Vermonters are, I don't know what happened. Vaccines, yes, let's shoot them all up. Why isn't it mandatory yet? I mean, that's sort of the consensus. And it's a very bizarre, very, very bizarre to me because, and the media also in Vermont is on shutdown, you know, is like on mainstream entirely. And so I do call them up and I do write them and I do scream at them. To what avail, I'm not sure, but I have to do it for my own karma. You know, I can't just let them get away with it. So.
No, you live there.
And so, well, we'll do what we can. And I always tell people we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And when
That's
I remind myself of that, I can throw anything at me and I'll figure it out, you know. But when I think of it the other way, I go, you know, I get all weird too. But I think, you know, it all will unfold the way we collectively create it.
Yes. Yeah. Was there anything else that you needed me to address? Or, I mean,
no, but I think
I kind of gave you the quick version through my learning parabolic motion to this book. but did I do it well enough?
You did it extremely well as always, and I really want to do a series with you on sub rosa.
Oh, yes.
I really
See,
would love to
I
do
think
a
that,
series with you on that because
yeah,
I think that would be
yeah, I
fun.
think it's my magnum opus. I really do. I would love for people to know more about it, but I'm so busy on this issue that I haven't really given Sub Rosa its due. I haven't really done
And
that.
I think we need to give it attention next time you come on because it really is where it all starts also.
Yes, yes, and very scary, Claudia. I've had people who've read the Sub Rosa series write me and say, Elana, you chose 2019 as the day of this huge cataclysm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I chose it in 1993 because I had a dream in which the numbers 2019 was huge up to the sky and absolutely burning on fire.
Wow.
2019, and I woke up from it and said, "Oh my gosh! All right, it was so far in the future."
Right.
I just went ahead and chose that date, and now I'm like, "Geez,
wow.
I don't know what to do." I mean, if we make it through 2019 without that cataclysm, then should I just go online and change the date, Claudia? Push it forward another 10 years?
I'm not sure 10 more years is the right date. Maybe forward it another couple months.
or maybe I'll have another dream. And
oh my God. Well, I honestly,
that's how I got that date.
Amazing. But I think that this year is a pivotal year. And I think every year has been a pivotal year. So much happens every year. But I really think this year they really gonna hunker down. They really gonna try to implement because, just like Healthy People 2020, I mean, right there is your everything you need to know. I mean, they are trying to really, and they're trying to change the laws about vaccines, and they're talking officially about geoengineering. And so I think they're really trying to implement as much as they can this year. And I would not be surprised for 1 second if we see a major pandemic breakout somewhere, a major...
I think what you were just saying, must be prophetic for the people who are listening to us online, the guys, the laptop boys, because they slowed you way down as you were talking.
And on my end, it completely stopped. Yes, it completely stopped. So I'm going to say it one more time. We're probably going to have a major pandemic this year. Don't get afraid and don't get vaccinated. That's my 2 cents on it, because it'll be nothing until everybody gets their vaccines, and then people will drop like flies. I really believe that. So yeah, they have us.
I never, some people call and talk to me and vent. I think activists, and I never allow myself to even go into the future. Never allow it. I simply concentrate on the business of the day. What is that phrase? Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Right. That's kind of how I look
beautiful.
At it. Got plenty on my plate. I don't need to start fishing around for what may or may not happen.
Right.
But I know one thing, and I absolutely believe Rudolf Steiner when he says that if you really lay hold with your consciousness here and you assert your will through your intent, through your highest intent, that the spiritual world and those who have died and gone on and those other beings that are in some other plane of existence, they draw near because they see that you have really put the energy into what you are doing as something for humanity. Right. So that's what I invite people to do with me, is to put the fear aside, get your intent in order.
Yeah.
And like you, Claudia, just keep going. Just keep going, looking neither to the right nor the left in a way. And that I completely believe that help is on its way. And part of the reason that is, I mean, all the people praying to God to intercede, and the Archangel Michael and Mary and everything else. The problem with that, to me, and maybe I'm ignorant, is that in my way of looking, the spiritual world cannot interfere with our development of free will. We must be allowed our suffering, that's usually self-created, in order to really lay hold of our free will and make sure that it serves the good and not the evil in the name of convenience or in the name of whatever. We are the one. We have to be left free to do that and to go down, and to go down. So that's sort of an idea that I take up in Sub Rosa to really look at in the futuristic chapters, because I have chapters that are taking place in 2019, and the character is looking back at this journey that her friends and she took in 1970 to go and see where John Kennedy was shot. Is this idea of what you are giving your life to, and is it in service to humanity, or are you on the other side, like you said, the bigger the front, the bigger the back. So if you are serving humanity, you can expect that the dark side is doing its homework too. So we must know that it exists. And those who say there is no evil, I don't know what planet they've been living on, but there is evil, and it has its own objectives. And so that we carry our objectives with honor, and is the right thing to do. And I'm just dedicated to the right thing. I always have been. Well, not always. No, that's not true. I take that back. I used to be very self-serving when I was a model, and very beautiful and manipulative of men.
You still
are. To be not the kind of person that you really want your son to marry, kind of thing.
We all can talk about that. I always say, when people say, "You're so good, you're so wonderful," I go, no, half of it is because I want to be wonderful. The other half is because I'm too afraid of karma coming back, which when it slaps you around, it's no fun, So I try to really not create more bad karma in my life. I'm really dedicated to that. And also, I feel very much that when we put our best intent into something, I feel the universe does align itself. I mean, I could write a book on just the miracles in my life that I could have never thought it out that way. And it would unfold in the most amazing way, and pieces would fall into place, and just unbelievable. I mean, it blows me away. And that's why I feel, whatever is going to happen, it is for... And I don't know whether anybody else sees the world the way I see it, or whether we all live in our own reality. Who knows? But I know it is for my greatest learning that I live this life the way I live it. And that's for better or for worse. It's really the way it unfolds. I know I will get the most learning out of it, which is why I'm here, I feel. And so we'll see how it transpires. We'll look back at it one day and go, all right, that was pretty wild. I didn't think it would come that way. But, the way it unfolds is the way it's going to be for our greatest good, I think, for our greatest development.
Meanwhile, that can be true. And meanwhile, we fight like hell or heaven, take your pick, to stand for the good.
Exactly. Yes. And at really, truly any cost. I don't even care, because this life is not that important to me. So I want to use it for the good that I love this planet so much and everything that's on it, and I really
Yeah.
want it to stay beautiful and stay kind and get kinder, and I think we can all add to that.
Wonderful. You're the
Aw.
best, Claudia.
No, you are so wonderful, and I love having you on. And there will be a day in this lifetime where we can actually hug and say, "Oh my God, it's finally so great to meet you in person."
I know, but well, I'll believe it when I see it. I haven't crossed the Mississippi for years.
Oh, well, sooner or later, we all cross it. one direction or the other. If you don't come here, I have to come to the mountain. It was such a joy having you on, as always. And I could talk for hours. We could sit here for hours. As you know, it's just wonderful to speak with you and just to be with somebody in the same space that is very much aware of everything is so wonderful. And my viewers absolutely just love you and love all the knowledge you have and what you bring to this world, which is an enormous amount that really nobody else is doing the research on it. Nobody else. Which is why it's so fantastic that you are actually gracing me with coming onto my channel, and I'm really grateful for that. So thank you so much, Elana.
Always have fun with Claudia.
I know, and we have to do it again and do a Sub Rosa stream just on that, because I think that would be fantastic as well.
All right.
Thank you again, and I look forward to having you back.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching, and please share the video. It's such important information that needs to get out. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.